And don't worry, I'll make them shorter than my penis this time. Playing the game Black Myth Wukong, have you ever wondered what is going on in this game? And what was really going on in the ending? Well, let's find out. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jay the Storyteller and I'm going to go through the story of the game Black Myth Wukong with you guys. Today we'll be focusing on the final chapter, Chapter 6, Unfinished. As you can notice playing the game, there wasn't really much story in this chapter and there weren't many bosses either. So you might be wondering, why is this video so long? Well, in the video we'll talk about the Chapter 6 itself, how the game was concluded, as well as going through all the hidden details and the hidden stories that were implied in the previous chapters. So that's why this video was so long. Hopefully it can help you guys understand the story a little bit better. Well, without further ado, let's begin. And here we go, Chapter 6, Unfinished. As the Destined One, we return to Mount Huaguo, our home, only to find this place was full of celestial army, and easily we took out the minions. Honestly, those minions are just as miserable as other sad characters in this game, because they were mortal souls as well. But after being selected by the Celestial Court, they had to serve the court for eternity. Their souls were attached to their armor, and when they take fatal damage, instead of dying, they will just be reborn in the court as long as the armor is complete. And the highest rank that they can promote to was the captain, a very minor position in the court. So it seemed to be a privilege to get off the circle of reincarnation of the mortals. But in fact, they were just selected to enter another circle. Going to battles, getting killed, and being reborn again and again and again and again and again. Yeah, I know, right? The ultimate dreamland of all capitalists. Anyway, the first boss we fought in this chapter was this bird, the Supreme Inspector. According to his portrait, he was the most trusted god of the Jade Emperor, and the Emperor put him in charge of monitoring all the gods in the Celestial Court. The Jade Emperor trusted him so much that the Emperor put the image of his right hand on his neck. The hand we see from the game. That was actually the Jade Emperor's hand, meaning the Inspector's presence was equal to the presence of His Majesty. That was why he was called the Supreme Inspector. So really, he was like the FBI of the Celestial Court, and nobody in the court wanted his attention. In a novel, when Wukong broke out of Lord Lao's furnace and stroked the Celestial Palace, he was the only Celestial God that could hold off Wukong, at least for a short while. The TV show didn't show this part, but that's what happened in the original novel. Also, I've talked about this part in my first video, like who is Sun Wukong and the story of the journey to the west briefly. So if you're interested, please go check it out. It was long, but it was very informational. It can really help you understand the story of the journey and the game a lot better. Anyway, back to the Supreme Inspector. He was trusted by the Emperor because he does everything justly. And also, I'm guessing that the fact that he held off Wukong in the court also played a part in the trust he got from the Emperor. But none of that matters. We still defeated him. And we even strangled this motherfucker in the air. Interesting. I didn't know you could choke a hand, but that's perfectly fine with me. Give me back the fourth sister, you asshole. Then we were saved by the somersault cloud, Sun Wukong's signature flying technique. He learned it from his first master, Patriarch Bodhi. The cloud was a very powerful flying spell. It could go about 54,000 kilometers within a somersault. Yep. Pretty damn fast. That was why it was called the Somersault Cloud. And then we faced this gold-armored Rhino. As the animation and Baji's words suggested, it was transformed from Wukong's armor, the gold sword's armor. And not only it transformed from Wukong's armor, it also inherited Wukong's characteristic, his indomitable spirit. No matter how many times its horn or its protection was shattered, it will always get back up and charge again, exactly like Sun Wukong in the journey. Wukong suffered the most pain and had the most injuries, yet still he led the journey gang to continue their journey to the west. He was never yielding to defeats, and all the defeats and failures could never break him. He was a true fighter with nerve of steel, and the Rhino got this part from him. And then we faced this cloud-treading deer. In the animation, we can see it was transformed from Wukong's Lotus Silk Cloud Treaders. shoes, his boots. And the deer inherited Wukong's agility, as it was able to manipulate the wind and fly. Also, the deer inherited Wukong's ferocity, as in the journey, Wukong showed no mercy to his enemies. And that's why in phase 2, the deer was covered in blood, because it represents Wukong's ferocity. And then this funny giant cricket, the Feng-tail general. It was transformed from Wukong's signature crown, the golden Feng-tail crown. The most memorable part of Sun Wukong. Unlike any other bosses in the game, we didn't actually have to fight this Feng-tail general, because it inherited Wukong's cleverness, and it knew to dodge and avoid troubles. Just like Wukong in the journey, he never relied on brutal force to take care of problems. He knew to get help when he needed it, as well as transform into Yaoguais and stuff, to get information he needed. So Wukong was clever. He hardly go into battles unprepared, and he knew how to make the fights easier for himself. So yeah, he really was a clever monkey. After the cricket, we faced this emerald-armed mantis. It was transformed from Wukong's gauntlet, the Diancui long soaring bracers. Now notice this gauntlet wasn't actually part of Wukong's armor set in the original novel. Game science just added this gauntlet in the game, which makes sense, right? I mean, you gotta have a gauntlet, otherwise it would look too empty. And naturally, the mantis inherited Wukong's characteristic, his ruthlessness, as he went into Zhubaji's stomach and fucking shit up in his stomach. Now, if you watched my previous videos, you will know this was one of Wukong's favorite things to do in the journey, into other people's stomach and just go crazy. The mantis really inherited Wukong's ruthlessness. I mean, just look at it. Real badass. Now let's talk about this giant rock guy, the giant Shikandang. Nah, it was actually the giant Shikandang. What a shame. The name looked a lot more fun to say it. So what the hell is this thing? Well, technically you can call this Sun Wukong's placenta. Like I've talked about in my first video, Sun Wukong was a stone monkey born from a rock that had been absorbing the essences of the universe for countless years. And after Wukong was born, the rock continued absorbing essences, and after years, it became this giant stone guy that we fought in the game. But, similar to chapter 2 in the Yellowwing Ridge, someone planted a Buddha head on this rock, and this ugly ass Buddha head stole the essences from the rock. In order to preserve himself, the rock had to absorb the essences from his surroundings, and that's why it was all ruined and scorched around it. The disgusting and greedy Buddha heads, man. Wonder who's behind all this. Such a mystery to solve. Seriously though, Buddhism was everywhere. They were all over the world to take oil. Sorry, I mean the good essences. As for this old monkey, the mandrill chief, well, long story short, she was the first monkey that Sun Wukong met after he was born, and she took him back to introduce him to the monkeys. So really, she treated Wukong as her own son. After Wukong's death, someone told her that finding the 5 Skandhas could bring Wukong back. Even though she was old and weak, she went on looking for them without hesitation. And that's why we can see her in the game, throughout all chapters. I guess she left Mount Huaguo right after Wukong's death. That's why she didn't know us, the destined ones. And that's why she ran away, leaving the Skandhas for us to take. Now, can you imagine what she's gone through? Even us, the destined ones, struggled a lot on the way here. Not to mention an old grandma like her. And after all those efforts, she finally saw a monkey that looked exactly the same as Sun Wukong. That's why her face was like this. She thought that Sun Wukong revived, and that's why she gave us the Skandha and left, leaving laughters of relief. Mothers, how great are they, huh? Be kind to your moms while you can, guys. Alright, let's move on to the next. The Water Curtain Cave. In the novel, Wukong jumped into the waterfall and found a new home for the monkeys. Because inside of the waterfall, there were pre-made furnitures and a sign that said, the Water Curtain Cave. So he led the monkeys into the cave, and the monkeys had a shelter since then. And that's how he earned the monkeys' respect and became the Monkey King. And here in the game, we can still see his throne. Bajie sat on it and said the exact words that Wukong said to him in the journey. Back in the journey, there was one time that Wukong and Tang Monk had a huge fight because of a misunderstanding, and Tang Monk kicked him out. So without a choice, Wukong returned to Mount Huaguo. But as you can imagine, the journey gang couldn't go anywhere without Sun Wukong, and very soon Tamang got into deep shit. So naturally, Bajie came to Mount Huaguo to get help, but Wukong was still a bit mad, so he pranked Bajie, treated him as a prisoner, and said the exact words that Bajie said in the game. Now this chapter was a very interesting one, but again, story for another time, and I'll talk about it in details in my future Journey to the West series. So if you're interested in the original Journey to the West story, don't forget to subscribe. In the Water Curtain Cave, we were able to find the Ruyi Jinggu Bang, Sun Wukong's signature weapon. It weighed about 6.7 tons and could change its size by the owner's will. That's why it was called the Ruyi Jinggu Bang. You know, in Mandarin, Ruyi means at will, and Jinggu Bang means the gold-banded staff. Yeah, in Chinese it was pretty self-explanatory. The Jinggu Bang was the finest treasure of the East Sea Long Palace, and Wukong politely borrowed it from the East Sea Long King. Nah, I'm just kidding. He totally robbed him, and not being satisfied with only the weapon, Wukong was like, now that I have a proper weapon, give me a set of armor that matches this weapon, and make it quick too. Otherwise, I'ma pull up with that stick and hit your motherfucking door. Without a choice, the East Sea Long King summoned his brothers, the Long Kings of other three seas. After their discussion, they decided to give Wukong what he wanted for now, but then they were reported to the Celestial Court afterwards. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Wukong got his weapon and his armor. Yeah, he was a total outlaw before the journey. I've talked about Wukong's story in my first video. So again, if you're interested, please go check it out. Now back to the game. After getting the Jinggu Bang, we were ready for the final challenge. The Great Sage's broken shell. But before we go into that, let's talk about why Wukong gave up his Buddhahood and decided to fight once again at the beginning. For the starter, the tightening band on his head, it was absolutely not a fucking crown. It was a tool given by the Buddha to make him obey, as it would cause huge pain upon triggering. The band was supposed to be removed after they completed the journey. But obviously in the game we can see it was still right fucking there. So that was reason number one, for his freedom. In order to do that, he had to kill himself to truly break free from the band. And in chapter 3, in Kangjin Star's portrait, Yellowbrow showed her something very mind-blowing regarding Sun Wukong, because she was a secret admirer of Sun Wukong. She asked, is he, along with all the gods and Buddhas in the celestial realm, all like this? Then the hero image in her mind just collapsed, and that's why she bowed to Yellowbrow. Now, we don't know what exactly Yellowbrow showed her, but we can take a wild guess. The immortality of the Buddhas and gods was based on absorbing the wills. In other words, the souls of the mortals. That's why the wills was a widely used currency in the game. So basically, all the immortals, the Buddhas and the gods, grant their immortality by feeding upon the mortals. And this was the cause of this game. After attaining Buddhahood, Wukong couldn't accept this fact. Not only he didn't want this immortality, he also wanted to put all this to the end, but he was still controlled by Buddhism through the band. So if he wanted to achieve anything, he had to figure out a way to break free from the band, because it looks like the band was deeply attached to his soul. So there was only one way to do this, to kill himself and find someone to inherit his powers and to carry on his will, to finish the unfinished. And that's why this chapter was called The Unfinished. Yes, us, the destined one. I didn't sign up to go against the world, but that's perfectly fine with me. Let's do it. Let's go! Fuck the gods and the Buddhas, man. They can suck my dick. And Wukong's good buddy, Erlang the secret divinity, knew about his plan and he decided to help. As for who is Erlang, I won't talk too much about it now because I've talked about it in the first video. Long story short, he was the best fighter of the Celestial Court, and the only one god that could match Wukong's power, without using vessels. Then respect and friendship grew between them, as they were very much alike. They were both powerful, kind, and will not bow to the authority. In order to complete Wukong's plan, Erlang summoned the 5 Yaoguai kings that we fought in the game. The Black Bear Guai, the Yellow Wing Guai, the Yellow Brow, the 100-Eye, and the Mighty Bull King, Wukong's sworn brother before the journey. And as we can see from the game, they each had their own scheme except the Bull King. And by the way, before we go into the final battle, Wukong had Bajie over for dinner, and he got Bajie so drunk that he passed out. He did this to protect Bajie, otherwise Bajie was surely to follow him to go into the fight. But clearly Wukong didn't want that, as Bajie was his brother and he had his own family too. It would be too dangerous for him because it was practically suicide. Now can you imagine the emotional roller coaster that Bajie was going? You know, he went to his dear big brother monkey for dinner, had fun, got drunk, and the next day he woke up, his big brother was dead and got dismembered. Damn. Anyway, just wanted to mention that. Let's continue. Erlang led them to kill Wukong, but in fact, it was Wukong himself who killed himself in order to complete his plan. And the 5 Yaoguai kings each took one of his 6 senses, you know, the relics we saw in the game. But the most important sense was taken by Erlang, you know, Wukong's mind, or in other words, his will. He secretly took it from Wukong and eliminated all the witnesses, even though they were celestial soldiers. And then he went to Maitreya for help, you know, the Buddha of the future, who is known to be merciful and kind. Maitreya offered the help. He gave Erlang a hideout, free from the detection of the celestial court and Buddhism, you know, to keep Wukong's mind secure. Clearly, the kind Maitreya didn't like what the gods and Buddhas were doing as well. That's why he helped. After all we've been through, we were finally at the illusion of Erlang's mountain, the Mei Mountain, to face his final test. Yes, test. In every chapter, we will meet one of the Mei Mountain brothers, you know, sent by Erlang to help us in secret, to guide us to either find the key vessels or to learn about the hidden truth of the place, as well as testing our strength, all by the orders of their senior brother, Erlang, the secret divinity. And at this point, himself will put us to the test, to see if we truly were worthy to carry on Wukong's name. After we pass this test, he'll give us the most important part of Wukong's legacy, Wukong's mind, so that we can truly carry on Wukong's will and become the new Sun Wukong, free from the control of the band. And he even gave us his very own weapon. Looks like he really wanted us to succeed. And by the way, just look how powerful he was, you know, manipulating the weather with a flip of his palm. The power of the sacred divinity. After getting everything we needed, we were finally ready to face the final challenge, to take down and inherit Sun Wukong's final remaining power. And the old monkey that had been guiding us throughout the whole game took us to it. So who exactly is this old monkey, and how was he related to Sun Wukong and to us, the Destined One? There were many theories about his identity. Well, from his conversation, you know, his dialogues and the tones he was speaking in. Personally, I think this is Jin Chanzi, the gold cicada, the second disciple of the Buddha, aka the Tang monk, Sun Wukong's master on the journey to the west, because he just talked like a kindly elder when he was talking about Wukong and Bajie. And plus, he knew Wukong's stories too well, you know, including all the details, as if he experienced them himself. And according to what Yellow Brow said in the game, Jin Chanzi disappeared after they completed the journey. And at the beginning, Jin Chanzi was cast out of Mount Lingshan because he disagreed with the Buddha's doctrine. So it was very likely that after the journey, Jin Chanzi wasn't happy about what Buddhism did, so he left Mount Lingshan again to help us, the Destined Ones. But you know, as a disciple of the Buddhism, he couldn't go directly against Mount Lingshan, so he transformed into an old monkey in Mount Huaguo again and again and again, hoping that one day one destined monkey can succeed and retrieve all Wukong's relics. But his intention was a bit different from Wukong's plan though. He wanted to put the tightening band back on our heads again, but as a protection of course, so that he doesn't have to violate the Buddhism too much, as well as keeping us, the Destined Ones, alive. A subtle approach. That's what a concerned master would do for his beloved disciple. But anyway, that's just my theory. There's no official statement of the old monkey's identity. So have your own thoughts on this, guys. I mean, it could have been the Jade Emperor, who knows? Then, after the epic final animation and fight, and our ancestor Sun Wukong's lessons. I mean, they were actual lessons. You can just see that he had no evil intention towards us. He just wanted to show us how to use the powers properly. But still, man, that hurt. I mean, I've never, ever been this disrespected in a game before. But on the other hand, I really liked the secret interactions. They were just perfectly made and demonstrated Wukong's personality perfectly. After we passed this test, his remaining soul left this world for good. And he was laughing even, finally someone worthy to inherit his powers and carry on his name. Don't worry, Great Sage. I won't let you down. I'll make them all pay. And of course, now we have all his powers and his will. We will never wear that band again. And, like always, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the beautiful, epic final animation of this game.
What does it matter if you become a Buddha? That headband has always been on your head.
Keep those eyes wide open. Watch me rip it off and break free.
Sun Wukong, when you defied the Celestial Court, I had to seal you beneath the mountains with my immense power. Yet, after enduring punishment, you embraced the dark, uplifted good against evil, and subdued Yaoguais throughout the journey. For your contribution, I now bestow upon you the title of Victorious Fighting Buddha.
He defied the Celestial Court, and the Jade Emperor imposed 3 ordeals. Only when the chicken finishes pecking the rice, the dog laps up the flowers, and the lamp burns through the key, the rain will fall.
toast before we crash the Celestial Palace!
Alright, since that was the final animation of the game, there are a few things I want to talk about. First of all, this animation was the story of Journey to the West in reverse order. The first thing was when the Journey game completed their journey and their merits got recognized and they were entitled Buddhahood. And this animation appeared right after we refused to wear the band. So there might be something more to it, you know. Maybe it implied that in the future we will redo the Journey to the West backwards and all the way to the beginning where we can stroke the Celestial Palace. So maybe that's what the future DLC is about, you know, us striking the Celestial Palace. Let's fucking go! Game Science, please make it so. Give me a chance to rescue my fourth sister and barbecue this fucking bird. But anyway, that's just my guess, and I sincerely hope so. And the second thing I want to talk about is the image of the Thunderclap Temple. Now pay attention to the bottom of the temple. It was clearly connected to the hell. Another detail that implied there was something dark and shady going on behind the glorious and righteous Buddhism. And maybe we'll learn more about that in the future DLC to come. Hurry up, Game Science, and pay attention to the building right here. The sign said the Game Science building. Aha! I see what you did here, Game Science. Good job. And I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that the other parts of the animation were the stories and the adventures that they had in the original Journey to the West. And in the future, I'll make new videos to break down the animation scene by scene, you know, and then talk about the stories behind them. So stay tuned, guys. With those being covered, that brings us to the end of this chapter. Also, it brings us to the end of the main story of the game Black Myth Wukong. Now, if you watched my previous videos, you'll know that there were still some bosses and characters uncovered. It's not that I don't like them, but they weren't just directly related to the main story, and that's why I skipped them. But in the future, I'll make new short episodes to talk about their own stories. You know, such as Erlang the Secret Divinity, the badass kid Ne Zha, one of the most popular characters in Chinese mythology, and his father, the Pagoda Heavenly King, the Lawns of Four Waters, the Four Heavenly Kings, etc. So stay tuned, guys, for their personal stories. And don't worry, I'll make them shorter than my penis this time. And also, after the game, I'm making a new series to break down and go through the story of the original Journey to the West, as well as other good stories in Chinese mythology. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss them. Anyway, I'm Jay the Storyteller, and thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please subscribe. It will mean a lot to me. And also, if there are someone or certain stories that you wish me to talk about, please leave them in the comment section, and I'll go through them in the future. Again, I'm Jay the Storyteller, and thank you for watching this video. 欲知后事如何，且听下回分解。